Hey guys, and welcome back. Today in this video we're going to be talking about what are some of the better value bets potentially for week 13 in college football. And it's hard to believe, but we're pretty much getting to the end of the regular season here. Most of the conferences are ending their regular seasons this week, and then there's just a few more games next week as well as some conference championship games. But this is the last full week of college football where there's between 50 to 60 matchups on the board to choose from, and then after that we head into bowl season, which I'm really excited about. But with the end of the college football season, it's sad, but we also get the start of the college basketball season, which has started a couple weeks ago. Been getting some decent results over there. If you're interested in my college football videos for the bowl games and next week's action, as well as some daily college basketball pick videos, you can hit that subscribe button and get notifications of that. And also, if you're looking for pick content beyond just what I talk about in this video, you can head over to stumpthespread.com. If you're on desktop, you can click this icon right here and it'll take you right over there. And if not, I'll also link Stump the Spread in the description of this video. And also in the description of this video, I'm going to have a list of all the matchups that I'm going to be talking about in this video in order of when I discuss them. So that will also be in the description. So if you're interested, you can go take a look at that. But I'm going to start with the one Thanksgiving Day game, which is LSU versus Texas A&M. Texas A&M really looked great for the first couple months of this season. It's really unfortunate that they lost Trevor Knight for the season. He really gave the Aggies quite a boost this year. And then you have LSU, who's been a little bit inconsistent with their results, but when they bring their A game, this is an elite LSU defense, and when their offense is able to, kind of build off of the strength in the field position that their defense gives them, they can run up the score like we saw in their road win against Arkansas recently. That was extremely impressive for LSU. Fournette's doubtful in this one, and then obviously Trevor Knight's the big one here. But Texas A&M just isn't nearly the same kind of threat without Trevor Knight, and the Aggies also aren't the same threat on the defensive side of the ball as LSU, and I think that's going to be the difference maker here as LSU gets the job done here and covers this spread, which is still staying under a touchdown at this point. Alright, moving on to Friday's games. The first one I want to touch on is Toledo versus Western Michigan. This has been the MAC matchup that I've been waiting for all season. Really excited about it. These are clearly the two best teams in the MAC, but Western Michigan obviously is a tier above Toledo, even though the Rockets have been having a really solid campaign. Toledo has been a little bit inconsistent on the defensive side of the ball this year, but their offense has been able to kind of pull through and get them wins more often than not. They stand at 9-2 overall coming into this one, so if Toledo wins this one, then they end up winning the MAC West and would go to the championship game, which would be a huge blow to Western Michigan, but it kind of makes this matchup a little bit more intriguing that the MAC West division is on the line. So Western Michigan remains undefeated on the year, with Toledo just having that one MAC loss. But if Toledo beat Western, then that would drop the Broncos down to one loss, and Toledo would hold the tiebreaker against them. Western Michigan looked great last week on both sides of the ball, going on to blow out Buffalo. This is a Western Michigan squad that's been putting up consistently strong results throughout the year in the MAC, and we see that continuing today on their home field as they go on to win and cover this moderate spread. Nebraska and Iowa. This is a Nebraska team that has some issues right now with the health of their quarterbacks. That's kind of a concern coming into this one. And then you have an Iowa team that didn't play up to their expectations this season, but the Hawkeyes have looked much better as of late, kind of culminating in that Michigan upset win at home. Iowa has a strong home field advantage, and given the uncertainty right now at the Nebraska QB position, we do feel really strongly that Iowa should be able to come through here and cover this really small spread at home. Arkansas and Missouri. This is an Arkansas team that when they're playing at their best, they've shown that they can compete with some of the best teams in the SEC. They've kind of been flying under the radar a little bit this year, just given all the other top teams in the SEC, and that can just happen as well in the SEC West, just given how many strong football programs there are over in that division. And then you have Missouri, who's not had the greatest year, playing in the weaker SEC East. This is a West versus East matchup, and more often than not, I side with the West teams in those particular cases, and we just haven't been all that impressed with what we've been seeing out of Missouri throughout the regular season, and it seems like this just doesn't feel like enough points giving against Arkansas. So we're going to be siding with the Hogs here, giving the points on the road as the better bet in this one. TCU versus Texas. TCU hasn't lived up to their expectations this year, but this is a team that, when everything is going right, they can show some pretty impressive results. Like about a month ago, for example, with their road blowout win against Baylor, that was really impressive, for instance, for Texas Christian. But those results have been few and far between. But when this team is playing at their best, they can be a pretty dangerous threat. Then you have a Texas team who's obviously going through a lot of turmoil right now with their head coaching situation. They get this one at home behind a home crowd that's really, they want their team to win, but they're really looking forward to making a change at the head coaching position, so it's a little awkward for that particular situation there at Texas. This should be a pretty competitive game, but we do feel like in what's a game that could probably go either way, we like TCU getting the points here as the better bet. Boise State and Air Force should be a pretty interesting matchup. Boise State, of course, this year they've been solid on the offensive side of the ball, but this hasn't been one of those, dominating Boise State defenses that we typically see out of the best Broncos squads from the, past 10 years or so. Their defense has shown that they can get gashed at times, and that's made things a little bit tougher on Boise State to get those consistent blowout wins. And then you have an Air Force team that's opened the year strong, then they kind of fell off at the beginning of Mountain West Conference play, but they have been getting back online as of late, and they do have a really tough triple option offense to stop, and behind their home field advantage, going against a Boise State defense that is probably going to have a little bit of trouble slowing the Air Force triple option down. We do like the Falcons getting the points here as the better bet. Another Friday game we have here is Louisiana Tech versus Southern Miss. Southern Miss really working their way through quite a disappointing campaign. This is a veteran Golden Eagle squad that was supposed to compete right at the top of Conference USA, but that just simply hasn't been the case, especially over the last month or so. Southern Miss has really fallen off. And then you have Louisiana Tech, who's looking like the hottest team in the conference, especially on the offensive side of the ball. This team seems almost unstoppable. Louisiana Tech is just looking really impressive right now. Something to keep an eye on in this one is going to be the status of Nick Mullins. If Nick Mullins is able to go, I would like Southern Miss getting 2 full touchdowns, but if he's not able to go, then I would side with Louisiana Tech here, especially if you can get it under the 2 full touchdowns. All right, here's a good rivalry game, North Carolina State versus North Carolina. NC State, they've shown that they can play with the best in the ACC, nearly upsetting Clemson on the road, but those kind of performances for the Wolfpack have been they haven't been coming around all that often. This is a Wolfpack team that's really struggled to find any kind of consistent results in conference play. And then you have North Carolina, who has a few losses this year against really solid competition, but overall a really great year for the Tar Heels, even though they've been overshadowed by a lot of other teams. This is a North Carolina squad that has one of the more dangerous offenses in the nation, and they can gash you both through the air and on the ground, which makes them really tough to defend at times. We like North Carolina to get their offense rolling today as they go on to win and cover the spread at home. Houston versus Memphis. Houston, unfortunately for them, picking up those 2 defeats in the American this year to kind of dash their hopes at making the college playoff despite beating both Oklahoma and Louisville, which are tremendous resume wins for Houston. Coming off that great Louisville win, it's going to be interesting to see how this group kind of refocuses their efforts. Memphis, another team in the American that's been a little bit inconsistent with their results, especially more so on the defensive side of the ball. This is a Memphis that can put up pretty consistent numbers on the offensive end, but their defense has been a liability at times in some of their defeats. Keeping an eye on the status of Riley Ferguson is going to be big in this one, even though typically when teams are coming off really emotional upset wins like Houston's doing, and then they go on the road in their next outing, it can be kind of tough to refocus. But we do like Houston here, especially with the status of Riley Ferguson unknown, as the better value bet, just giving the 4 points here against what's been kind of a hit or miss Memphis defense. All right, Washington and Washington State, another rivalry game here. Washington has been the talk of the town in the Pac-12 throughout the regular season, but they kind of got knocked off a bit from their pillar with that USC defeat at home. This is going to be another really challenging game for the Huskies here, going on the road to Pullman to face a Washington State squad that opened the year with 2 defeats, but ever since then they've only lost 1 game since their road loss against Boise State in week 2. This is a Washington State squad that's been flying under the radar just because of that really slow start to the year that people kind of discounted them, but this is a Washington State squad that's extremely dangerous, especially through the air with their pass game. Behind their home field advantage, getting the points in this rivalry game, we do feel like the Cougars have pretty solid betting value here. And the last Friday game I want to talk about is Texas Tech against Baylor. We've been fading Baylor big time over the past few weeks, just, ever since their, I believe what started it was either loss against Texas or TCU, but they just have not been looking good as of late, and it almost seems like the fight of this team has been completely drained out of them, and with Seth Russell out, that's just another blow to this Baylor squad's ability. Interestingly enough, even with Baylor having some really awful results over the last month, they still are getting bet up here by the public, going from -1 to -5.5, which is kind of surprising. But this is a Texas Tech squad that's had some of the best offensive numbers in the nation this year, but obviously their defense is one of the worst in the FBS. But we do think that Texas Tech can keep things competitive here against Baylor, kind of similarly to what Texas Tech was able to do, like for instance against Oklahoma in what was a higher scoring game. But in that particular matchup, Texas Tech had no success against Oklahoma's offense, while I think they can have at least some level of success here against a Baylor offense that hasn't been quite clicking on all cylinders as of late. Obviously Texas Tech coming off that really poor defeat in their last outing against Iowa State, but we like the Red Raiders to bounce back here, getting the moderate amount of points here in what should be a pretty competitive matchup between 2 teams that haven't been showing the greatest things as of late in the Big 12. Alright, next game, South Carolina against Clemson. South Carolina has shown that they've really had great improvement on the defensive side of the ball under head coach Muschamp, but it just is the same thing that Muschamp had at Florida, where the offense has been unable to find any sort of consistency. Then you have Clemson, who's had a lot of home games actually this year where they've struggled, like in their Troy win, North Carolina State another one, and then the Pittsburgh loss. It's really interesting that this Clemson squad hasn't had that consistent dominant presence on their home field like teams, for instance, like Ohio State or Michigan or Alabama. They've just been consistently dominant on their home fields throughout the year, but that just hasn't been the case with Clemson. We really like the South Carolina defense, or what they've been showing us throughout the year, and we think that they can hold this Clemson offense low enough to where the South Carolina offense probably needs to score maybe about 1 touchdown to get this cover. So we feel like the Gamecocks have pretty decent value here, getting this many points on the road. Alright, so now moving on to Saturday's games. I just have a large handful of games that I want to talk about. Starting with, let's see here, the first one is going to be Michigan State against Penn State. Where's that one at? Let's see here. Alright, here it is. Alright, so Michigan State against Penn State. Everyone knows the struggles that Michigan State has been having this year, but this is still a Michigan State team that when they're playing at their best can be quite a threat actually, and we saw that again last week in their 1-point loss at home against Ohio State. We really liked Michigan State to cover that over 3 touchdown spread, and they actually ended up almost winning that one straight up. And in this particular matchup, all of the pressure is going to be on Penn State. They're trying to win this game to make the Big Ten title game and maybe have an outside shot at making the college playoff if they're able to win this one and the Big Ten title game. But with all of the pressure and expectations on Penn State's side and Michigan State really having nothing to lose in this particular matchup, we just like the mindset that Michigan State's going to be coming in with as a result, and getting a pretty generous 12.5 points. We do feel like the Spartans have pretty solid betting value in this matchup. Rivalry game here, Minnesota-Wisconsin. Minnesota has actually picked up quite a few wins this year, but they have gone against the easiest Big Ten slate that you could possibly hope for, avoiding matchups against Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, to name a few. Minnesota, they have shown that they can be competitive against some of the better teams that they've faced, some of them in losing efforts, but they go into a really tough environment here against their rival Wisconsin, who boasts one of the best defenses in the conference. Wisconsin's been kind of shuffling their two quarterbacks right now, but that hasn't been affecting their offense so much. They've been putting up some pretty decent numbers, and we like Wisconsin to lean on their defense here as they go on to win and cover the spread against a Minnesota team that's really been largely untested this year. Auburn, Alabama, another great rivalry game here. Auburn, kind of opened the year a little slow, and then they became one of the hottest teams in the conference, but they've kind of come back to earth a little bit as of late, and then you have QB Sean White's status a little bit questionable coming into this one. Alabama, they're pretty healthy compared to most teams, and a part of that is the fact that they get to rest a lot of their players when they get large leads on a consistent basis. Alabama isn't necessarily the team that always tries to run up the score and, throttle their opponent. They kind of like to manage things more, but just given what we've seen out of the Crimson Tide, they've been so dominant, and behind their home field advantage, we do think that they're going to be able to win and cover this rather large spread here, going against an Auburn team that we really don't have all that much confidence in, and we thought that their hot streak was more fool's gold than anything else, and that's kind of shown more recently to be the case. So we're going to side with Alabama in this one at home as the better bet. Kentucky and Louisville, we really sided with Kentucky a lot this year, especially in SEC play, and they really came through for us. We've been avoiding them more recently, but Kentucky has been really good for us against the spread this year. And as well as Louisville, we've been kind of picking our spots with them and have seen some success with them. Louisville coming off that really bad defeat in their last outing, and the offensive line is really a big concern in this one. In this rivalry game, it's kind of surprising that this spread has even been bet up a little bit. Kentucky has a pretty solid run game that should have some success here against this Louisville defense and kind of control the clock through that. And we really like Kentucky here getting the generous amount of points as the better bet. Oregon against Oregon State. Here it is. Oregon obviously not living up to their expectations this year, even close. They've really fallen off the map. But when Oregon's playing at their best, they can really compete with just about anyone in the Pac-12, and we saw that with their upset win against Utah. That was pretty impressive for the Ducks. And then you have Oregon State, who's been consistently struggling throughout the year. This is going to be another tough matchup for the Beavers. Should be a pretty competitive game, though, over there with Oregon State getting the home field advantage. But we do like the Ducks to kind of close things out here and be able to get past the Beavers and cover this 3-point spread as a pretty solid bet. Utah and Colorado, this is a must-watch in my opinion. A lot of drama here. If Colorado picks up the win, they go on to compete in the Pac-12 title game. If not, they'll lose their spot to USC. And then Utah having another strong year in the Pac-12, able to play spoiler here potentially. We really like what we've been seeing from this Colorado squad as of late. They're playing with a lot of confidence, even though all the pressure is going to be on the Buffaloes in this one. We do like them to come through here, giving the 10 points as the better value bet. All right, another rivalry game here, Central Florida against South Florida. We like what we've been seeing out of both of these teams this year. Central Florida is way less consistent on the offensive side of the ball, though, in comparison to South Florida. The Bulls have a very dangerous attack, both through the air and on the ground, and really the big difference maker here is going to be not just the home field advantage, but the offensive consistency more so that we've seen out of the Bulls this year. The spread has gone up a bit, but we still like South Florida given the points here as the better bet. Moving on to Florida against Florida State. This is a Florida defense that ranks as one of the best in the nation, but their offense has been really poor and just not a lot of fun watching this Gators offense this year. Florida State, not quite as dominant defensively as Florida, but their offense has just been on a whole other level. This game could be close, but we just really like that the potential this Florida State offense has and brings to the table. So we do like Florida State to win straight up, but we'd feel a lot better if this spread was able to get under a touchdown. We're probably going to hold off on this one more for now, especially given the fact that Florida does have the edge defensively, and in these rivalry games that can mean quite a bit. Over the touchdown, though, we're probably going to be cautiously siding with the Gators in this one, but if it gets under that touchdown, then we feel like Florida State's probably the better bet. All right, so I got about 3 more games that I want to talk about in this video, starting with Michigan against Ohio State. This is the game of the year, game of the week, whatever you want to call it. Michigan not probably feeling as much pressure coming to this one as the home team, Ohio State, who has, a little bit higher expectations. Wilton Speight, he's probably not going to play in this one, and I don't even necessarily think that's that big of a deal. Whether you go with Speight or O'Korn, you're not going to get that much of a difference from Michigan on the offensive side of the ball. This is a Michigan team that's not necessarily the greatest offensive unit in the world. It kind of depends on what caliber defense they're going against, and this is an Ohio State defense that should have quite a bit of success slowing down this Michigan unit. Where Michigan has the advantage coming into this one is they have a lot more experience and veteran players, which can really matter in these important, rivalry games that have a lot on the line. And Michigan's also very solid on the defensive side of the ball. We see this spread has gone under a touchdown. Getting it at over a touchdown, Michigan's the clear play here. Under a touchdown, it's a little more of a toss-up, but we still do like Michigan to compete and push for this upset as they go on to cover this 6.5-point spread. Notre Dame versus Southern Cal. Even though Notre Dame has had a lot of struggles this year, this is an Irish team that in their defeats have been respectable, and they've actually been very competitive. Unfortunately for the Irish, they just haven't been able to come through in a lot of their close contests, and a lot of that has had to do with their defensive inconsistencies. And then you have Southern Cal who opened the year not so great against a really tough schedule, but they've been really hot, and they look like the best team in the Pac-12 actually over the past month to 2 months. So this is a Southern Cal team that's playing with a lot of confidence right now. This just feels like a lot of points to be giving against a Notre Dame offense that can put up pretty respectable numbers, and all of Notre Dame's defeats this year have come by under double digits. So we do like the Irish getting this many points, but we do expect Southern Cal to kind of finish the year off and pick up the win in this one. And the last game I want to talk about is my favorite smaller conference team, group of 5 team, is going to be the Wyoming Cowboys. It's just been a lot of fun watching this Wyoming squad this year and how they've really developed under Craig Bohl. It's been nice seeing this team get back to competitive and respectability. I really started liking Wyoming back when they brought in the up-tempo spread attack, back when they had, I don't even remember, Smith or something as their quarterback, Brett Smith. They were a lot of fun to watch back probably about 5 years ago or so, but they're going back to more of their roots and tradition, going back to, getting rid of all of the designer uniforms, and Craig Bohl has really just brought in a great mindset for this particular program, and it's been showing on the field. They picked up another great win last week. We picked them as a high confidence play, getting the 10 points against San Diego State, and they went on to win that one straight up again, just like when we took them with the points against Boise State at home. Wyoming has been a little less consistent, however, on the road. They've shown much more, not as much on the defensive side of the ball as you'd like to see them on the road, but Wyoming has their own, controls their own destiny. If they win this game, then they can go right onto the Mountain West title game, which would be great for this program, being able to unseat Boise State potentially in the division. And then you have New Mexico, who's been flying under the radar a little bit this year, having some success, but they bring that triple option, which can be tough to defend at times. It's probably going to be more of a higher scoring game, but we do like Wyoming to come through here and finish off the job as they go on to cover this 3-point spread against what is not the greatest New Mexico defensive unit. So that's the last game I want to be talking about for Week 13's action in college football. It's been just a really fun year in college football, and we've had some of our best results that we've ever had, putting up just a ton of units this year. And actually last week we went 7-0 against the spread with our highest confidence college football pick, so that was just a really great week for profits. Anytime you can limit the defeats, it really makes a huge difference when adding up your bets. But anyways, for those interested in getting our free or premium picks in article form, you can head over to stumpthespread.com. If you're on desktop, you can get over there through this link, and I'll also link Stump the Spread in the video description. And again, if you want, you can subscribe to get notifications of when I release these videos. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to be doing it for bowl season. Maybe I'll do like weekly bowl videos, or I might just do one video where I talk about every bowl game. That video might get a little long though, so it's just going to be kind of a decision I make at the time when the bowl season rolls around. But we still have Week 14 action next week, where we're going to be seeing a lot of conference championships and things like that. So that's going to be pretty exciting, and we're also getting things really rolling here in the college basketball side of things. A lot of these non-conference tournaments going on right now, which are always a lot of fun to watch, as some of these big conference teams get to go head-to-head on neutral sites. It's pretty fun to watch. Again, if you're interested in looking at my daily college basketball videos, you can subscribe to the channel or just go to the channel and find those videos. They should be right there. I'm probably going to be releasing one of those videos again later today for tomorrow's action on Thanksgiving. So thanks guys again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.